Hello everyone, I'm Kong Xiangdi, a doctoral candidate at China University of Petroleum, East China. My field of study is energy law. Today I will discuss how China's newly enacted energy law responses to its nationality-determined contributions under the Paris Agreement through the lens of normative coordination. I will present my report in the following 7 sections. Part 1: Global Climate Governance Shift from Kyoto to Paris. The Paris Agreement introduced a bottom-up approach centered on NDCs, replacing Kyoto's top-down model. However, NDCs embody a fundamental tension. They are voluntary under international law, yet they require binding domestic legal force to achieve global temperature goals. For China, which has committed to the dual carbon goals, translating NDCs into domestic law is not only an international obligation but also a necessity for its own low carbon transition. Why domestic legislation matters. Without robust domestic legislation, NDCs risk remaining as political declarations. The energy sector, being the largest source of emissions, must be governed by a legal framework that translates abstract climate goals into concrete obligations. This is where China's energy law, enacted in 2024, plays a pivotal role. It provides the legal foundations for operationalizing NDCs through what we call normative coordination. Part 2: Normative Coordination Framework. Normative coordination refers to the dynamic process of aligning norms and policies across values, institutions, and implementation mechanisms to achieve integrated governance. It operates at 3 levels: value coordination, ensuring legislative purpose align with macro goals like NDCs; institutional coordination, making sure legal instruments are mutually supportive; implementation coordination, linking supervision, evaluation, and enforcement. Let's move to the NDC traction on domestic law. NDCs are not static under the Paris Agreement's retreating mechanism. They are strengthened every 5 years through the global stockade. This creates continuous traction on domestic legal systems. This traction demands value prioritization of low-carbon transition, operational tools like carbon markets and efficiency standards, transparent monitoring, reporting, and verification systems. Part 3: Strategic value realignment. Article 1 of the Energy Law explicitly incorporates promoting green and low carbon transition and advancing carbon peaking and carbon neutrality into its legislative purpose. This makes a paradigm shift from a supply security oriented energy law to one that balances security with climate goals, a foundational layer of normative coordination. Aligning core principles with NDC logic. Article 3 embraces the new development philosophy which includes green development into the law's basic principles. This provides continuational constitutional level legitimacy for low carbon transition within the energy sector, bridging international commitments and domestic political mandates. Part 3. Institutional innovations for NDC delivery. Carbon dual control mechanism. Article 5 establishes a shift from controlling energy consumption to controlling carbon emissions, a revolutionary move that directly targets greenhouse gases. This system operationalizes the quantitative targets of NDCs by creating legally binding carbon budgets. However, its effectiveness depends on detailed allocation and MRV rules, which are still under development. Mandatory renewable consumption. Article 23 extends renewable energy consumption obligations beyond grid companies to power suppliers, sellers, and users, replacing the former full purchase rule with a quota-based system. This design better aligns with electricity market reform while legally securing non-fossil energy targets under NDCs. Market linkage and tech innovation. The energy law establishes a unified energy market system that supports future linkage with carbon markets. It also dedicates a chapter to energy technology innovation, prioritizing renewables, hydrogen, and storage, key to long-term NDC achievement. Part 5. Implementation gaps and external pressures. Fragmentation in science energy legislation. However, there are significant gaps between the energy law and older sectoral laws like the electricity law and coal law, which lack low carbon value orientation. This creates legal uncertainty and undermines coherent implementation of NDC derived obligations. Operational hurdles in carbon dual control. The carbon dual control system lacks detailed allocation methodologies and a unified MRV standard without accurate data and fair allocation. The system's credibility and effectiveness are compromised. EU's CBAM and international rules of external pressures such as the EU carbon border adjustment mechanism require China to enhance its carbon accounting and pricing systems. Similarly, Article 6 of the Paris Agreement demands domestic rules for international carbon trading, which are not yet fully established. Part 6. Systematic Revision Roadmap. Recalibrate sector-specific statutes. We recommend amending sectoral laws to include low carbon and climate response clause, ensuring normative consistency with the energy law. This would provide a coherent legal signal across the energy value chain. Refine carbon metrics and enforcement. We urge the promulgation of the detailed implementation rules for the carbon dual control system, including scientific allocation methodologies, a national MRV protocol, clear um, penalty mechanism, upgrade global role responsiveness. China should develop carbon accounting standards aligned with international norms like CBAM and ISO and embed Article 6 procedure into domestic law. This would enhance interoperability and help Chinese enterprises compete in growing global supply chains. Part 7. Let's move on to the final section from text to governance. In conclusion, the energy law has established a normative framework from NDC implementation through value realignment and institutional innovation. However, achieving NDC goals requires closing internal gaps, refining operational details, and adapting into international roles. About the research and policy outlook, future research should focus on fairness in carbon allocation, cost effectiveness of MRV systems, legal economic impacts of CBAM. Policy should prioritize cross-departmental coordination, public carbon data platforms, international mutual recognition of carbon standards. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to your questions.